Good morning, folks. How is everybody this morning? What's up, Strife? Get my screen sharing going for you guys. Just looking at some of our trade plans. Let me also get our futures chart open real quick. Oh, that was weird. My Discord just went nuts. Sorry if I got cut off for a second there. I think it happened when I went to share my screen. Let's try that again. How's that? Yep, you guys should be able to see me now. All right, let's get this chat window open. What's up, Navy Plum? Good morning to you as well. What else we got here? Nuke for your ass. What's up, man? Thanks for joining us. What's up, Iggy? Drew? Healthy? Omiab? Good to see everybody here. All right. Let me, I got some music going in the background. I found recently that this kind of helps me concentrate a little bit, but it's a little bit distractingly loud. Nukes for your, yeah. I like the screen name. Let's just hope we don't need any nukes for your ass anytime soon. All right, so we'll talk a little bit about where we're sitting at in the markets as far as futures goes. We'll also recap a few of our recent trade plans, and then of course hammer out some new ones based on what you guys are interested in taking a look at here this morning. So feel free to go ahead and start popping your ticker requests and or questions in the chat area of our live stream here on Discord. For those of you who might be tuning in on YouTube, Xtrades is a Discord trading community. All the info should be right here on our YouTube page for you guys to link in and join the fun. But that's how you get to hop into the live stream channel with me and ask for ticker requests, questions, all that sort of stuff. So well, what's up? Is that Ivel or Elvel? I don't know. Capital I, lowercase l, but new to this. Let's see how it goes. Well, hopefully it goes well. Streaming is paused. Oh, strange. Let's try this again. Thank you, Navy Plum. I appreciate that. I don't know what's going on with Discord this morning. It crashed when I went to go, or kind of rebooted itself when I went to share my screen in the first place, and now it's paused. So let me stop and try resharing it. Maybe that'll do the job. All right, looks like you guys can see it again. I don't know what's going on with Discord. I think it's been having some technical difficulties the last few days. So what are we looking at here market-wise on ES? A couple things I noticed. Okay, gosh, sorry, I just saw the alert that says stream is still running. I thought I was going to say stream is paused. One thing I noticed yesterday, and I apologize, I wasn't a little bit more active. Still wrapping up a couple of things outside of Xtrades, Discord, the markets, etc. But pretty much through all of that stuff, selling a property and dealing with a bunch of meetings yesterday. So anyway, one thing I noticed is that and you know, if you guys have been watching these live streams, I've probably talked about this demand zone that we need to hold, this trend line that we have pushing to the upside. We also had a weekly support resistance level here on ES that we essentially made a nice double bottom off of yesterday. So, you know, for those of you who like to trade SPY or SPX, make sure that you're also sort of accounting for how things are moving and where your support and resistance levels are, where your indicators are, where your trend lines are on ES, because that can be very helpful for spotting entries on SPY, because ES is essentially S&P futures. They move in tandem. In fact, I'd say futures move SPY more than SPY moves futures. So put that in the for what it's worth category, but so far holding up. We keep testing and digging away at this demand zone, and we keep getting closer and closer to this trend line that's kind of been pushing the market up for a little while now. So we need to kind of be on our toes. I mean, I still, as long as this stuff is holding, I like down in this area for looking for, you know, buy the dip type opportunities, but just be ready to sort of flip your bias, switch your direction to from buying the dip to shorting the rip. If this starts to break down, or really if we lose 420, 42.74.25, or ultimately this demand zone, I think that starts to open up room to the downside, and potentially we start going through these demand zones a little bit quicker, because then we're also losing a pretty key trend line there at that point. So anyway, that's kind of what I'm looking at as far as the market goes. Again, as of right now, I'd say still buy the dip, but proceed with caution, and certainly don't oversize, because things could start to slip and open up more room to the downside. All right, let's talk about some of our recent trade plans. We'll recap those, kind of talk about where we're at. Do we still have good opportunities to get into some of these positions? I'd say for most of the ones I was looking at, getting ready for the live stream this morning, I'd say the answer is yes. But if you guys have other tickers, let's do some trade plans and some charting here live with everybody, especially for folks who are new to this, like Level or Ivel or whatever it is. Excuse me. Go ahead and start popping those in the chat window if you guys aren't familiar with joining us on this live stream. What's up, Shinobi? Good morning. Thanks for joining us, buddy. Appreciate you being here. Meta. All right, we can take a look at Meta. So for those of you who are new to this, again, there is a chat section of this live stream channel, little word bubble icon up in the top right hand corner. Make sure you click that, open up the chat. You can see Shinobi, Navy Plum, all these folks talking. That's also where I'll be posting my charts and trade plans and stuff like that. I mean, clearly you can see them here on the screen that I'm sharing, but even better would be to be able to see these charts, come back to them, make copies of them if you need to, put these levels on your charts, whatever the case might be. So recent trade plans we've done over the weekend, we did with member selected tickers, we did AMD. So far AMD has kind of been a no trade. We're still sort of in this no man's land. It's tried to test this trend line. This is a 4-hour trend line, so it doesn't look like a great test, because TradingView sort of adjusts how this trend line hits based on the time frame that we're looking at, but very close to hit there. Hit this a few times, going back quite a ways, back to August 7th. So looking for AMD to shake this trend line off for a potential nice move to the upside if and when that does happen, but our trade plan accounts for that for sure. And really, since we've put this plan in place, we've just kind of been in a range between our stop loss average down levels for both the upside and the downside trade plan. So nothing really actionable on AMD yet, in my personal opinion. We are now losing some smaller time frame moving averages here. So that's not a fantastic look. Things flipped bearish here on Neptune, got a short signal there Friday going into the open, and then we flipped this flag from bullish to bearish, so all that's kind of flipping to selling pressure. 100 SMA looks like it's getting ready to cross below the 200 SMA, also bearish. So AMD is starting to flash some real bear signs here. Could potentially see this if it breaks below 101.64, move down to this 151 level, where we got a little bit of a confluence there with the 333 SMA. Could also potentially catch a bounce there if and when that does happen. So just some things to think about as we look at this trade plan, but this one is in the options watch list from over the weekend. Again, really nothing to write home about yet on AMD. Shop is giving us a breakdown below our put entry level, and looks like it's opening up the room we would need it to move down to PT1. We're below all the moving averages, short signal, bearish flag on Neptune. So this looks like we should get continuation down, at least a PT1 there at 52.23. Just take a quick look on the 15-minute chart. So yeah, one thing I'd be a little bit mindful of, 333 SMA here on the 15-minute chart. That could catch us support. Also on the 15-minute chart, it looks like things are starting to flip a little bit more bullish. So kind of mixed signals as far as moving averages versus Neptune goes. I don't necessarily love mixed signals trades. Those are ones I generally try to avoid. But overall, breaking down, getting back tests. In fact, a fairly clean looking back test up here of our put entry. So I believe we will see PT1 to the downside if you were following the shop trade plan that I posted from your voting over the weekend. And then Tesla, this was a really interesting one. And if you had the, the cojones, I guess, for lack of a better way of saying it, to try to catch this falling knife that we saw pre-market on some weak delivery numbers that Tesla posted pre-market yesterday, essentially dumped all the way down. So we did this trade plan Sunday evening. We come into Monday pre-market, delivery numbers come out, dumps all the way down to PT3 for puts, and bounces almost all the way up to the call entry level off that. You also notice that we kind of stair-stepped our way up these levels as we made our way up. So we broke back over PT2 for puts after bouncing at PT3, or very close to, not exact, but very close to PT3. Cleared over PT2, bounced, cleared over PT1, bounced, and just kind of continued to grind its way to the upside off that. Very similar to actually, since Shinobi asked for Meta, we can take a look at that. But we kind of saw a similar thing with Meta when they had some news drop. It dumped right down to PT3 and then rallied. I think it even went over the call entry level off the bounce from PT3. So two ultimate put price targets that were dead on. Unfortunately, with Tesla here, just wasn't very actionable because of the heavy move pre-market when options weren't tradable. If you're the type who likes to short shares, could have been an opportunity for that, but again, moved extremely quick, would have been very hard to catch, and probably would have been hard to find somebody willing to loan the shares essentially pre-market. I don't know how heavy the share trading is pre-market on Tesla, because I just haven't really traded shares on it during extended hours personally. But anyway, nice bounce off of PT3, puts it right back in our range. So keep an eye on Tesla. We could see a recycle of the downside trade plan. Things are starting to flip a little bit bullish though. So just keep an eye on it. Still looking for a break over that 254.63 level. That should open up some of these upside price targets. Again, this one is also in the options watch list that I posted on Sunday. Other ones that we looked at recently here on our live streams. Netflix we did last Thursday. Again, this one's still in no man's land, similar to a couple of the other ones we looked at. So no entries, no action on this one yet. Again, seems to be sort of consolidating between either our stop loss average down levels like it's done the last couple of days, or the day that we planned this, it did dump down to our put entry level and bounced off that, came pretty close to tapping the stop loss average down for the call side of this trade plan. But this one is here in the live stream chat from last Thursday's live stream, so you can scroll up and see this. Also, for those of you who are new, just so you have a sense, because I know sometimes I'm showing charts that I don't need that chart right now, that may have kind of all my levels on it, and so that might make things a little bit confusing if you're not used to looking at these or haven't heard me explain these before. So when I post these charts, again, this for newer folks, you'll notice a couple of things. I mark my entry levels as solid lines, like you see here, the call entry level, put entry levels here on this shop example, trade plan example. Excuse me, let me grab a sip of this coffee here. Oh, so good. All right, solid lines are entry levels for puts or calls. Dash lines are our price targets. So if we're talking about this shop trade plan, we're looking for a break over 58.95 to take calls with targets at 60.56. We're taking some profit. 61.93. We're taking some profit. 63.99. We're taking some profit. This heavy dotted line is our stop loss average down. This is also signified by this risk reward long short tool in TradingView. This white shaded area becomes our risk zone because we're taking an entry above here, stopping out below here if that happens. And then the green zone is where we're taking our profit at. So going back to our, what were we just looking at? A Netflix example. Again, I have some other levels on my chart here that you'll notice. I also have some supply and demand zones mapped out, but you can kind of ignore all those. Those are kind of there for future use. Once I've mapped out my support resistance levels, they tend to stay on the chart. But as you can see here, very similar methodology to sharing sort of how I'm showing you guys these trade plans. Solid lines, put entry, call entry, stop loss average down, stop loss average down. This is the stop loss for the puts, stop loss for the calls. Target 1, target 2, target 3. We even threw in a fourth target on Netflix to the upside. Target 1, target 2, target 3. So, yeah, dude, I don't know how I just can't function without coffee. Yeah, you're welcome. I kind of came up with this methodology. Like to be able to just share charts and people can just look at them and say, I know exactly what he's telling me to do, right? That's sort of the goal with how I set these up. So I want it to be as easy to follow just by posting a chart without having to sit there and explain everything. So, if you guys like this idea and approach, if you're sharing charts and trade plans of your own with the group, feel free to copy it. I have not patented or trademarked any of this. All right, MU is the other one that we took a look at. This was an interesting one. We were looking at it going into the open right after sort of not a. I mean, the earnings report was actually good. They got a bunch of upgrades, but for whatever reason, MU dumped. And we talked about, you know, overall, generally speaking, if we're talking about playing something post earnings report, I like to give things a 3 day rule, right? Wait at least 3 trading days. Um, Mention an early entry for Netflix at 376.30. Yeah, sure. I'll circle back to that Navy Plum. Um, but looking at this MU chart here, talking about this MU trade plan and sort of was kind of going a little bit outside my rules, but there was a reason for it. And the reason for it was their earnings were ultimately good. And they beat top and bottom. I don't know why it's showing over here. Their earnings report was actually back here. But as you can see, they beat both top and bottom. Not a huge beat on revenue, decent beat on earnings. And they got a bunch of upgrades pre-market based on what came out of their earnings report, but MU was still dumping and dumped into the open. So I kind of talked about, again, 3 day rule. Generally, I don't want to touch stuff. However, when you see something selling off like that, and you've got a decent sense of how they reported their earnings, you start to see street analysts upgrading them like the very next day. Things start to not match up, and I start to look at a potential opportunity to go ahead and jump into sort of a lotto size position to the upside if we're dumping on good earnings and upgrades. And, I guess if we were ripping, which I don't know if I've ever seen this scenario, but if we happen to move up on really bad earnings and a bunch of analyst downgrades and the price is moving up, I'd kind of look to short it, although I don't know I've ever seen that scenario. I have seen this play out several times, though, where again, overall earnings are pretty good, decent to good. And then, right after that, pre-market analyst upgrades start coming in. Yet the stock still dumps, right? So these are ones where we can kind of try to catch a falling knife, if you will. Again, I would be extremely cautious of this. Overall, smarter play, smarter money is going to wait for sort of the dust to settle post earnings, but worth a lot of size position. We talked about this again last Thursday. As you can see, came down to our put entry level. That was the key support, held it, bounced. Also has a bigger picture trend line. It looks like it broke on this smaller time frame, but it's a higher time frame trend line. So this actually did hold. That trend line is still valid. Moved all the way up to our call entry level off this. I actually caught a small lotto trade on this, played out, paid out very well, and now we've seen it start to break above our call entry levels and hitting some of our price targets there at PT1, almost to the dot, pulled back a little bit off that. Yesterday tried to make a little bit of a higher leg up, however, struggle with this weekly level. I'm sure I probably talked about paying attention to that one. Even though we don't have it as a price target, these green weekly levels are always something to kind of keep in consideration. But based on the recent price action, I thought we'd have more room to the upside. That could still play out. Also, nice confluence here as we look at MU going into today's open. That looks pretty good with the 333 SMA here, call entry level here at 67.14. Keep an eye on this to hold up. I would also say it might make sense to give it a little bit of time, maybe wait for 67.80 to clear out. If 67.80 does clear out, the way Neptune is trending will probably flip Neptune bullish. Will probably also clear back above these moving averages. So you could look at 67.80 as a potential entry. Keep PT1 here at 68.69, or you can bump it up a little bit to 69.08 if you want. And I would keep my stop loss average down in that scenario with that entry there, where the call entry level is there at 67.14. So, an opportunity to potentially kind of reverse engineer these levels a little bit. If you wait for this confirmation over 67.80, you can rework the levels to a plan that suits you. All right, so let's take a quick look at Netflix because this will be a quick question, and then we'll get to Meta for my boy Shinobi. And the question was mentioned an early entry potential at 376.30. What's your thoughts? 376.30. Were we talking about 376? I don't even have 376.30 marked on my chart. Are you sure that's the right level? Earlier entry for Netflix at 376.30. Were you talking about for the upside or the downside there, Navy Plum? I just want to try to answer your question here, and then I'll hammer out this meta trade plan. He's typing. Downside potential earlier entry. What would I have been looking at or talking about at that point? Well, I would say this. It looks okay for an earlier entry, or for an early entry. Not really 376.30, but more so 375.77. And honestly, I'd want to see it drop, flip this bullish flag bearish on Neptune, at least on the 15-minute. That's holding up still. Yeah, I was going to say, I have a feeling we're probably fully bearish on the 5-minute. Also getting a short signal there. Yeah, I'd want to see a confirmed break at 375.77. I think that would result in a flip of this flag back to the bearish side of things, and then you could look to play down to 371.56, and I'd put my stop loss at 378.47. I hope that answers your. What I was debating the stop loss. Yeah. Between these two levels, I could certainly see, where I would have kind of been on the fence about that. And as you can see, we did get a rejection off that potential move to the downside. It's probably debating between these two, and I felt like that was sort of just flattening out our risk reward, making it 1-to-1. Both levels have played. I would say this has played more as resistance, this a little bit more support as we've broken above it. But again, I think if we get a breakdown below 375.77, could see this act as resistance for a good stop loss. So you could use this stop loss average down as a potential early entry. I'd switch this to PT1 at that point. That would be my stop loss there at 378.47. And then I'd be shooting for PT1 as my PT2, technically, because we'd flip that to PT1. So hopefully that helps, Navy Plum. If you have more questions, buddy, just let me know. Post them in the chat. We'll get to them. All right, so let's take a look at Meta. Let's see if we can't put together a new plan on this one, or maybe we're in a spot to recycle an existing plan. So this is one that, again, I mentioned earlier, kind of similar to what we saw with Tesla. Meta had this news. I can't remember what it was they were talking about this day, but we were kind of waiting for some event that they were having. They dumped all the way down to PT3, and I mean literally almost to the penny. What was the low of that candle? 286.79, 286.68. I mean, on a drop like that we caught it within essentially 15 cents, I'd say that's pretty dead on accurate. And then big bounce off of that has, like I said, since pushed up above our call entry level, even hit PT1 to the upside off of that bounce. So let's see where we're sitting at now. Looks like yesterday we cleared over the call entry level again after breaking back down below. Let me flip over to our recap plan. I think I've probably moved this over to that chart because it's a little bit easier to see versus everything I normally have on my charts there. For those of you, especially for those of you who are newer to trying to follow this stuff, let's move this over. But yeah, we've got it set up here already for us. So like I said, nice bounce off of PT3 all the way up to PT1 plus. We are now, looks like we're coming back for a potential back test. Could see, got a nice confluence of support here on the 15-minute, just above the call entry level, right around this 303, what would I call it? 303.50 to what about, 304, somewhere in that range. Nice little confluence down there, bottom of the Neptune flag, heaviest buying pressure, a couple of SMAs there. 333 SMA just below. Everything kind of slowly grinding, trending to the upside. So we could see a back test of the call entry level or this little range here, 303.50 to 304 on Meta for it to push higher. But let's start with a fresh trade plan, figure out what we want excuse me, what we want to do from here. That's just sort of at a glance looking at our existing trade plan on it. All right, so we're gonna go back to square one, start a new meta trade plan from a boy, Shinobi. One of my favorite arcade games back in the day. I'm probably dating myself quite a bit by by saying that. When I say arcade, I mean like coin op arcade. I actually, that's just a weird aside while I'm working up this trade plan, but was driving by the arcade that I frequented as a kid recently, which is sort of down in the tourist area of Virginia Beach, so I don't make it down there a ton. But it's still there. I was blown away. I was like, oh my God, that place still exists. That's impressive. I figured it had gone the way of Blockbuster. All right, that's going to be annoying. Let me grab this line. No, I don't want that. I want that line. All right, you know what? Send that to the back. There we go. All right, so now that I've sort of taken the distractions out of it, gosh dang it. There we go. Pac-Man, yeah, that would be cool. Yeah, Meta's been an interesting one. I mean, once they made that pivot away from, doing the metaverse and started focusing on AI, I mean, just a massive recovery on this one. I think everybody was very looking at the metaverse as kind of like, oh, what is this Second Life 2.0? Like, who actually wants to do that? And then they're like, hey, you know what? We decided this is not where we want to go. We want to actually focus on AI because anybody mentions the word AI and their stock rips. So they got on the gravy train essentially. Which, credit to Zuckerberg, smart pivot, right? You gotta do what the market wants you to do sometimes, I guess. And the market wanted Meta to get into AI and away from Meta, weirdly enough. But yeah, I was shocked too. I mean, because they changed their company name over it. I mean, yeah, we're not going to be Facebook anymore. We're going to be Meta. We're going to focus on the metaverse. Oh, wait. The market thinks the metaverse sucks. Maybe I shouldn't do this anymore. It's pretty much how that played out, it seemed like. All right, so this supply zone is holding up pretty strongly. Yeah, it's got a ways to go. Another interesting one, though, to keep on watch and related to the metaverse. Oh, God, what was that company? It's not Microvision. Gosh, I'm gonna have to go look it up. I'll dig it up and I'll share it with you guys. But they have it's like a 3D mapping, uh, hardware and software kind of thing, where essentially they could like go into like a real life building. It's not. No, I don't think it's MicroStrategy. I'll find the name of them. It's somewhere in the back of my brain, and I don't want to get too bogged down when we should be trade planning. But anyway, it's a company that's was holding up for a long time, um, but it started to slip a little bit, and then but anyway, what they can do with their platform is, or what their business does, is they go into like real world spaces and like map them to a point where you could easily just import it into a virtual world like the metaverse, and it would be like totally accurate and interactive and stuff like that. But they use it for a lot of other stuff as well. Kind of an interesting um, technology and application, but um, I don't think it was Unity. I'll remember. It'll jump out in my brain at some point, and I'll drop it here in the chat. But let's knock out this meta trade plan real quick. So struggling with supply here a little bit. Pretty clean rejection off this daily level overhead. Where does upside really open up to me? And it's kind of clear, actually, looking at this 4-hour chart. I think what we want to see is we want to get back above this 310.26 level. As you can see, that kind of opens up. Even if it looks choppy here, we play in that range, right? So it kind of opens up 310 up into some of these higher levels. And then you see we can break down below and flip this to resistance. So I think that pretty clearly gives us a potential entry here over 310.26, and pretty also clearly also gives us a stop loss average down right there at 307.99 that I think sets up already a decent, a smartly limited risk zone, I would say. Over that, then we start to have to figure out where we want our targets to be. We do have supply just overhead here. I was kind of torn between these two levels as far as this 313.61 and 314.31. Just looking at how this price action is playing out here. I see lots of tests, especially that one pretty clean test right there of support. That would put us right at the top of this next supply zone. So I could certainly see us pushing just over that. And still, if this holds, we could get a print up and tap that level and still not break that supply. So I think I'd want that to be my first price target for sure. Just smart spot to take profit. Also, looks like just eyeballing it sets up about maybe a little better than a 1-to-1, maybe like a 1.2, 1.5, somewhere in there, risk reward set up as far as the plan goes. Over that, I feel like that's too tight of a PT1, PT2. Clearly, or obviously, or you should be, I won't say obviously, you should be moving your stops up as we test these price targets. So, over 310.26, your stop is down here at 307.99. If we test 313.61, you take some profit, move your stop up either to 310.26, or you can bump it up a little bit more. There's another level there to 311.94. Make sure that you're keeping yourself in profit, or very, very, worst case scenario, break even on your contracts once you start hitting those price targets. Over that, I think I want to get up into the middle of the supply zone up to this 4-hour level there at 316.29. I think that's our next price target. Also see, again, some strong rejections and struggles with getting over that level leading into this move to the downside. So then over that, though, we could potentially open up some more room to the upside. Still would need to clear out the rest of this supply zone, so don't, again, ignore that. May also have a level sitting right in here that I don't have mapped yet. Not enough to go on based on what's on my chart right now, so I'm not going to mark it, but I'd be watching out for this 318.04 level. You know what? I take that back. I think we do have enough to put a level down here, actually. The thing that's really missing, let's do this. The thing that this is missing for me is any good support tests. I've had some coffee, not enough apparently. So I wonder if this is not quite a 4-hour level. Yeah, I don't know. I'm not sold on that level, to tell you the truth. It's part of a supply zone, generally speaking. I tend to find support and resistance at the top and bottom of supply or demand zones, but this one just doesn't look clean enough, I guess is probably the best way for me to say it. So I don't know. I'm going to put this in a yellow color as a caution. Go back, research, make sure that that level holds up. So going back to our trade plan, though, got PT2 here. I think PT3, I was eyeballing this 319.57 level. I think I agree with that. I'm going to stick to that. So approximately a $10 move overall to the upside here on Meta. Downside, let's get to current. Where does downside become more interesting? Let's hide these indicators for a second. We do have a weekly level down here. And it does seem to open up downside. The only thing I'm a little bit concerned about is we've also held the top of this demand zone as pretty solid support. Although, let me see something here real quick. No, technically it's still valid. I thought maybe we closed a 4-hour candle below, but this is that one where we caught PT3 essentially huge reaction, lower wick on that 4-hour candle. In fact, technically, that created a big new demand zone, but no need to get into that at the moment. So where can we go short on this, guy, is the question. I think what I'd want to do is I'd want to be, this is very risky, so be careful with this downside plan, full caveat disclosure, because essentially we're going to start to take downside positions in demand, which is not something I would generally recommend, but I think that that's where downside actually potentially opens up. We could start to test the bottom lower area of this demand zone. And I think we pretty clearly have, this is going to be a price target, one of them here at 292.78. Let's flip back to this 1-hour chart. So the question for me then becomes first price target below 299.88. And I think it's going to be this 295.81 first price target. I think that also gives us a stop loss debate between these two levels. I think we give this, yeah, I think we gotta give this, we're seeing some resistance, not super clean right there, but cleaner support there yesterday. Support if we're below it, and especially if we're below that, and then below 299.98, essentially below 300 psychological. This should then act as resistance. Yesterday's kind of low should act as resistance. Smart place to either A, average down, or B, cut puts at that point. If we do break back above it, getting in below 299.88. But yeah, first price target down there at 295.81. So next price target 292.78. Below that, I feel like this 290.15 level is a little bit off, actually. I think it sits a little bit more right here. Let's see. Do we have anything? Yeah, I like that a little bit better. So, yeah, I think we're playing for this as our third price target. Again, we get this dip down. If you want to hold a runner, by all means, try for another test of this 286.68. But, I mean, that needs to be a green runner at that point. When I say green runner, you've pulled all your money back out, you've pulled some profit out, and you still have a contract or two left to ride that if they go to zero, you still are out for a profit. I'd say take a stab at it. But anything outside of that, if you're, of a account size where you're only playing one or two contracts, take your profit early and move your stops up aggressively. That's what I would say. All right, so this is what we're looking at for Meta, and I'll probably, just so it's not so noisy, it's easier for folks to follow, let's move this over. I want to hold on to that, or do I want to hold on to this recap of this trade plan? I think I do for now. So I'm going to put this on a totally different layout. Oh, let's go with mentoring. I can probably delete any drawings I have on Meta here, if I even have any, which I don't. Okay, cool. Even easier. All right, so we've got this level, this level, this guy, this guy, this guy. Whoops. There we go. And let's see if it'll cooperate grabbing these long short tools. Yeah, accidentally grabbed this zone as well. And let's go ahead and grab our potential you better only be holding totally free contracts. Totally, you better be out with profit and all your money back. Still have a contract or two left. Take a stab at 286.68 again, but this is overall the meta trade plan. Yeah, of course, Shinobi. Happy to help, brother. All right, so just to talk you guys through this, to recap it one more time, we're looking for a break over 310.26 to take meta for the upside. That gives us targets at 313.61, 316.29, and 319.57 with a stop loss average down there at 307.99. To the downside, we're looking for a break below 299.98, call it 300, with targets at 295.81, 292.78, and 290.39 with a potential long shot. You again, only green runners target at 286.68 with a stop loss average down at 302.84. I don't know. There's a second level there I grabbed somehow or something at 302.84. So that is your, whoops, forgot to put it in the chat here, meta trade plan. And then point up. There we go. All right, do we have any other ticker requests? Apple for Navy Plum, and I should already have levels on Apple, so I can probably crank this out in the next 5-ish minutes, which is about all the time we have left before I have to go work on the SPY plan. Also, just a heads up, I hate to do this 2 days in a row, but I am going to be tied up again today. I've got I have a very important golf tournament, and it's important because it's one that raises money for a scholarship that is in honor of my best friend who passed away of cancer a few years ago at the young age of 40. So don't make a point of playing in many golf tournaments throughout the year, but this is one that I make sure I play in and put a good chunk of money into as far as my donations every year. So I will be out of pocket today, unfortunately, but I'll be doing something fun instead of tied up selling properties or dealing with that crap. But I want to get some money out of this market before the interest rates totally crush any interest from buyers, and was able to move this one for a few grand over my asking price, which I'm totally happy with. Always good to have a side hustle, and certainly recommend investing in real estate. Well, I'd say wait for interest rates to calm down a little bit, but get yourself some rental properties, long story short, but wait for interest rates to come down before you do it. All right, so Apple, what's going on with Apple? Kind of interesting lower wick action here. Not really enough unless we go way out. Let's see. I just want to see something real quick. Yeah, thanks, Strafe. Like I said, love to play golf. My fiance's probably even better than I am, but I don't make a point, especially like in the middle of the week, to play golf very often, but this is the one thing I make an exception for that I just will not miss. All right. I was trying to see if we had any kind of if we were catching maybe like a longer term, bigger picture trend line here somehow. The short answer is no. Whoa. That's fun to look at, isn't it? Yeah. Not even close. All right. It was worth a shot. All right. I was trying to see where we're getting these wicks that kind of keep moving us to the upside. There's only 2 touches here, so this is not confirmed yet. Probably worth keeping our eyes on, though. I wouldn't play a bounce off of it just yet, or I'd wait to see some confirmation that we are going to bounce there before I jump into any kind of a trade on it, but let's tighten this up a little bit. Just something I'm going to keep an eye on, and also going to kind of use this as a gauge for probably where we're going to find interest in getting into puts, which, let's see. Let's Let's go to this hourly chart real quick. Yeah, we're also running right into the top of the selling pressure there on Neptune on the hourly. This could wind up forming a little bit of a bullish hammer candle, though, off that potential trend line, to be confirmed trend line. All right, so I think this was what I was kind of looking at anyway, so I'm going to go with what I was seeing here on this chart. Well, so I think about this, though, I actually kind of like it a little bit better on a break below 169.87, and then we flip this. I was looking at it as an entry, but I think it would be better as a stop loss average down level. Downside, we kind of overshot this weekly level here at 168.11. Caught a cleaner bounce off this level at 168.72. Let's do some time traveling real quick. Go back and see when Apple was below our put entry. How'd that price action play out before? There's a bounce off of it, so glad we picked that as our put entry level for sure. So then the question becomes, my question for myself becomes, do I think we open up enough room to come down to this weekly level? And the answer is yeah, I think we do. We overshot it. It wasn't a clean test. We got a cleaner test a little bit higher, but I think we're aiming for that weekly level below 169.87. There at 168.11. Below that, again, we're going to have to use some of this older price action. Even get to some old trade plan levels here. I think we're looking at this 166.74. PT2 for the downside. And below that, I think we're looking at this old stop loss average down level from an old trade plan back in April of this year, down here at 165.60. So that's our downside setup. Upside, definitely would want to be out of this selling pressure, and I'd say just to make extra sure over this 200 SMA here on the hourly. So I think we're looking at an entry. Price action, I think, agrees over this 174.57 level. That gives us a good stop right here. 173.57. First price target. Do have a gap to fill still. This level's a little bit low here at 175, 87 this May. Yeah, I think this looks a little bit better right here. It needs a slight adjustment. I drew that on the 4-hour time frame, but on the hourly it's a little bit more clear. That needs to be a little bit higher up here, 175.99. First price target. And that's also a gap fill, so I would scale out heavy there. Weekly level, wouldn't ignore that. Also, confluence currently with the 333 SMA, that will move a little bit, but it'll be close to still being a confluence, I think, if we test it anytime soon. They're at 176.73. Last upside target. There may be an hourly level here I don't have charted. And it's also, I think, where I would put my PT3 for sure. So let's pull this over to a chart that is easier to see. Well, we are right in the middle. It's kind of still existing Apple trade plan from last, I'm guessing that's last weekend's, not this most recent past weekend, but the weekend before that. We did Apple as a member selected ticker. That's the one where we, again, broke down, back tested the put entry all the way down to PT3 and have since climbed our way up. So almost perfect exit we nailed there at 168.11. I think I want to keep this one on deck as well, though, just in case I want to look back at it. So we'll dump the, yeah, that's fine. We'll dump these levels onto this mentoring chart. Huh? There we go. And I'll just delete whatever's here. All right, so here's our Apple trade plan. I'm sure for new folks that was looking quite confusing there for a minute. So here's our upside. What did I say? Yeah, about 1.5 risk reward to that first price target on the upside. So here's our Apple trade plans. Copy image. So just to walk us through this one, we're looking for a break over 174.57s with target 57s, 174.57 singular, with targets at 175.99, 176.73, and 177.81. Stop loss average down at 173.57. To the downside, we're looking for a break below 169.87. That should give us targets at 168.11, 166.74, and 165.60 with a stop loss average down at 170.80. All right, Apple, Meta, those are your trade plans, folks. I do need to go get this SPY plan together. That will be posted in the options watch list this morning, as it always is. I want to thank you guys so much for joining me today. I really appreciate y'all taking the time. Hopefully you learned something. Definitely, I think we've found some opportunities and talked about some existing opportunities that we looked at previously for us to make some money off these plans here in the near term. So keep your heads on a swivel. As we always say here on the Xtrades live stream, in the words of my friend 007,
plan your trades and trade your plans.
That's right, folks. Plan your trades, trade your plans. I hope you all have a wonderful day. I normally say I'll see you in the chat, but I will not see you in the chat today, unfortunately. But hopefully I'll be out there hitting them straight. We'll be back Thursday morning at 8:30 a.m. every Tuesday, Thursday, 8:30 a.m. Eastern Time. You will find us here as long as the market's open. We'll be getting ready to go out there and secure the bag. All right, you guys have a great day. I will see you soon. Take care. Best of luck.